Ayan. Hi daw, hello. Kamusta daw kayo? Sabi ni Picasso, by popular demand, meron tayong dito kameta natin si Picasso. Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Picasso, tingin ka dito. Mag-hi ka sa mga kameta natin. Mamaya mo na ako i-kiss, wag ganon. Kausapin mo sila, seryosong usapan natin today. Mag-hi ka dyan. Hello. Hello daw, hello. Mm. O mamahingi ito ng star sa bigyan niyo to. Para meron siyang bagong damit. Siya, ang cute ng damit niya, oh. Pang sportsman. Pang sporty, ha? Okay, boy. Mamaya, gamitin na kita ulit, ha? Ayan, kamusta kayo dyan, mga kameta? Marami tayong pag-usapan. Kung kailan na naman, gusto natin bumalik dito sa Phillips Curve discussion on economics. May mga bagong ano na naman development sa ating bayan. Hindi ko actually na-discuss yan kahapon, yung anunsyo ng ating parating na presidente na si Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na gusto niya mag-concurrently mag-serve din as the secretary. No? And in this case, so hindi lang presidente, cabinet member na rin siya. So maging Secretary of Agriculture siya. In many ways, this is consistent also with his vision for economic recovery in the country, yung vision niya ng anong accomplishment ng tatay niya, also, or yung ama niya, and also dito rin dun sa kanyang mga key cabinet appointments, especially si NEDA Secretary, incoming National Economic Development Authority Secretary and former NEDA Secretary under President Aquino, Arsenio or RC Balisacan. As I said, na nakausap po natin si Secretary Balisacan recently, na-interview po natin siya. We will release that hopefully soon. GMA Network will have it. Release it soon. So, i-share natin yan, no? Para makita niyo yung mga detailed discussion namin. I'll give also my take on this issue of agricultural development. Bakit mahalaga ito sa national development natin, sa economic recovery natin? Bakit sa aking palagay, mahalaga ito para sa ating parating na presidente? Why would Marcos, for instance, try to serve concurrently also as agriculture secretary? Why not, I don't know, DFA or Department of Health secretaries? Yung mga positions na kina hindi pa rin nabuo. So we'll discuss that quite shortly. We'll also discuss some of these issues raised with the outstanding real estate tax daw of the Marcos family, because the incoming BIR commissioner has made it clear that they will make sure that no stones are left unturned in terms of massive outstanding real estate taxes. Although incoming finance secretary and outgoing central bank governor Benjamin Jokno has had a relatively different take, no, on this issue. Relatively different in the sense that parang point niya parang unfair naman ni criticize lang sila or something like that. We'll discuss that quite shortly. Now, I want to discuss more about the issue of stagflation, among others. But I think for now, we can discuss it more in detail kasi ayoko na may rush yun. May klase din ako soon. So, alam nyo na, priorities are always students. Sorry, I'm not gonna sacrifice my classes for our vlogging life, as important as it is. Right? Pero guys, mag-subscribe kayo, by the way. Mukhang may problema sa notification ng marami. Marami nagreklamo, hindi sila nag-notify pag live. So I think if you subscribe to our channel talaga, YouTube style, if you subscribe dito sa ating page, I think mas sigurado na ma-notify kayo if ever meron na tayong live. Kasi napansin ko yun yung problema eh. Kasi parang bumaba ng 50%, biglang nag-live eh. And it was kind of weird. We were reaching 4,000 or 5,000 and biglang 1,000, biglang hindi na kayanan. Yun pala may problema kasi nag-reconfigure yung Facebook eh. They did some reconfiguration that you can see already in terms of yung look niya, yung sa feeds. Dito also on my part, sa admin part, I can see some changes here. So baka when they did the reset of their configurations, baka doon nagkaroon ng problema. So please, mag-subscribe kayo. May bayad ba? Basta mag-subscribe kayo. I think mas sigurado na alam niyo right away kung meron tayong live. Now, as you can imagine, things are gonna get busier and busier and busier. Today, kaagad, pag gising pa lang natin, konting tulog kanina, ayan na, interview namin si incoming National Security Advisor, Ma'am Clarita Carlos. So please, abangan nyo rin yan. May interview namin with Ma'am Carlos. We had very interesting exchanges on foreign policy, sa relation natin sa China, relationship natin sa Russia, relationship din natin sa Amerika. Of course, yung issue ng red tagging, the cyber libel issues among others. Alam niyo naman, there was like cyber libel cases. So we discussed that. We also discussed, of course, what are the things we should do sa peace process. In fairness naman kay Ma'am Carlos, she tried to explain things as much as possible in the most fair and comprehensive way kasi concern niya parang taken out of context some of the things she has said. So we had an opportunity to properly discuss a lot of these issues. So please, abangan niyo rin yan, yung interview namin not only with Secretary Balisacan, one of my favorites out there, very, very good technocrat, a good-hearted person, but also with my former professor, National Security Advisor Clarita Carlos. We're going to discuss a number of issues, and based on that, we can make certain projections about the Marcos foreign policy. In fact, doon sa interview, among others, I asked about yung take ko sa Marcos diplomacy, if it's going to be more yung tinatawag natin na equilateral, dynamic equilateral balancing, and well, she said mismo, right? So that was reassuring, but we're gonna have more discussion of that. All right? Okay, so ito na, hindi na tayo vlogger mode na alaskador lang all the time. Medyo seryoso na tayo. So, pasensya na if I cannot give you an exact time of kailan tayo magmeta. Usually sa Manila, dahil sa traffic and all, siguro ginagawa natin around 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Yun ang marang time slot natin dito sa page natin. But we'll try to, but there are times that I'll have to do that another time. So ngayon, may naghanap tayo ng konting window before finishing some work and the interviews and then my next class. So sabi ko, pasok tayo dito. Alright? Hindi naman yata malaking bayad subscription na yan. Pwede ko pa ibabayan. Ano lang naman yan, isang Starbucks coffee lang ang subscription, di ba? I mean ninyo, makano ba isang Starbucks coffee? 200, di ba? Yan lang naman eh. Huwag nga ako Ilocano, ako lang Ilocano dito. Basta, pag ganon, pwede na yan. Para lang pag live tayo. Nako. Guys, you're catching world-class charva. Dito sa ating mga vlogs natin. Alright? You're not gonna get this anywhere else. Alright? Unless you enroll in some very good university, etc. Magbayad ka ng hindi 200 pesos. Magbayad ka ng 200,000 pesos. Alright? Okay. So, magpasalamat kayo. Okay? Wala naman tayong Patreon account eh. No, but I'm thinking if subscription, siguro mas, I think sinadya ng Facebook yan, na parang iniiba yan, para mag-subscribe na lang kayo. I don't know dun sa business model nila. I was not updated. So, the next thing I know is, bakit gano'n iba yung itsura? Yung Twitter ko mukhang Facebook, yung Facebook ko mukhang TikTok, di ba? Yung TikTok ko, hindi ko na chine-check ano nangyari dyan. So, yon. Please na lang, check yung option for subscription para sigurado na ma-update kayo. Ang bayad niyo dyan, isang Starbucks coffee lang. Sige na, mag-sacrifice na kayo ng isang Starbucks coffee. Okay na kayo. Alright? Okay. Saan na tayo? So, kahapon, may announcement from incoming President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na instead of appointing someone, at least in the meantime, siyang maging parang incoming head or Secretary of Agriculture. This is quite interesting. We don't see this. Oh, by the way, monthly yan na hindi daily yan. Akalain mo, yung isang month mo na pang isang Starbucks mo, pwede isang month. Oh, subscription. Ayan tayo. Check no, hindi ko alam. Kasi alangan, i-subscribe ko sarili ko. So I don't know what's going on. 1 month. Bayad mo isang Starbucks lang. Talo nyo pa yung mga boy libre na every 2 weeks lang nag-order. Tapos nakikitambay sa coffee shop. Oh, kaya 1 month lang. Ayan. Wala na vlogger na tayo. Ganyan talagang buhay vlogger, guys. Tong Facebook kasi, they're constantly readjusting things para they can monetize. Kasi kumikita sila sa loko tong mga to eh. Ako naman, ang habol ko lang naman dito, pangbayad ng 3-in-1 ko at saka wifi. Alright. Kaya thank you sa mga stars nyo dyan. Alright. Okay. Saan na tayo? So ito, si incoming President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., alright, sinabi niya that he will head the Department of Agriculture in concurrent capacity. So, he's the president, he's the head of the cabinet. At the same time, he's one of the cabinet members. So, siguro mag-update din siya sa mga ibang cabinet members. Ito po yung ginagawa natin sa Department of Agriculture. Ito po yung gagawin natin. Ito yung kailangan, etc., etc. So, sabi niya, as for agriculture, I think that the problem is severe enough that they have decided to take on the portfolio of Secretary of Agriculture, at least for now. So, there's a possibility down the road siguro, if naging mahirap talaga yung trabaho, marami siyang mga concerns, crisis, etc., he'll put someone else in charge. Outgoing Agriculture Secretary natin, by the way, will be advisor. I'm not sure ano mga position niya, Deputy National Security Advisor, etc. He will be the incoming advisor on food security, dun sa food security cluster ng incoming National Security Advisor natin si Clarita Carlos. So dun sa National Security Council, meron tayong iba't ibang clusters. And Professor Carlos told me just today that what they were looking forward is to have a kind of an ecological security approach to national security. No, of course, we discussed red tagging and all of that, and pointing out we have to have a comprehensive understanding, multi-dimensional understanding of national security, and one of them is ecological security. So food security will also be part of that, which is connected dun sa topic natin ng stagflation. All right? Now, so it looks like, while President Duterte saw the war on drugs, preventing the Philippines from supposedly becoming a narco state as his top priority, although he put Bato in charge of that, who's now senator, right? Senator si Bato, right? Okay. Masarap daw buhay eh. Masarap ang buhay ngayon, sabi niya. No? Okay. Ayan tayo eh. In fairness, mukhang for Marcos Jr., his priority is not EJK, sorry, it's not drug war or mga magmumura sa Amerika, mga ganyan stuff. His priority is economic recovery and particularly focused doon sa agricultural sector development. Now, I'm gonna give you my 2 cents on this based also on my exchanges with Secretary NEDA Secretary Balisacan. Please check out also an interview on that. So itong sinabi niya, at least until we can reorganize the Department of Agriculture in the way that it will make it ready for the next years to come. So in short, ang emphasis talaga ni incoming President Marcos is to overhaul and upend the agricultural policy of the government. Kasi kapos talaga tayo, guys. Talagang pinabayaan yung ating agricultural sector. I don't know kung fan ka ng kaninong presidente. Tatay president, era president, I don't know. But let's be honest, pinabayaan talaga yung ating agricultural sector. That's why we have among the oldest, I think the oldest farmers in the world in terms of average age. And my goodness, sa atin yung mga International Rice Research Institute, sa atin ang lahat ng climate ecology, tapos isa tayo sa mga pinakamalaking importers ng bigas. I mean, this is scandalous. This is scandalous incompetence and lack of proper agricultural policy and food security. Nakakabahala po na isang bansa na katulad ng Pilipinas, with everything we got, we have to import big time rice from other countries. Kaya nga yung issue ng bigas ay naging mahalaga yan sa sa eleksyon. Kaya nga yung 20 pesos, etc. ang pangako ni Marcos. I don't know if that's feasible, but clearly, him taking over the Department of Agriculture is a kind of a shot across the bow to say, hey, I mean things. I mean, I know food security is a big issue. We have to do something about it. So hindi pwede yung kung sino-sino lang ilagay dyan in charge of Department of Agriculture. You need to have a decisive leader. In this case, Marcos is volunteering himself. Let's see what he's going to do. Again, speaking of the late Marcos, I have said a lot about my concerns with the human rights record, with the deplorable state of the economy there. But of course, I took a much more cautious, I took a much more sanguine view on his foreign policy, especially in West Philippine Sea. Now, but one thing I have to emphasize is that it was also during President Marcos. Kasi ang tagal naman niya doon, di ba? 21 years siya in power. Kaya nga, napaka-ewan naman i-compare mo si Marcos doon sa presidente na 3 years lang or 6 years lang, di ba? But nonetheless, in the decades that Marcos was in charge, in fairness naman, and I remember hearing this in a hearing, doon sa Kongreso natin, few years ago, nung panahon ni Pangulong Aquino, I remember someone saying from the government, no, na a bulk of the irrigation projects, bulk of the irrigation infrastructure we have, a lot of that is what we're maintaining from the Marcos years. Now, as I said, 21 years ka in power, sana naman, di ba, may gawa ka. And there were a lot of problems, corruption, and anomalies. There was a lot of reliance also from assistance from international financial institutions, World Bank, among others, right? My mentor, Walden Belli, has written also extensively on this and the Marcos era economic developmental policy. He had a book called Development Debacle, so please read it. So now, no, I'm not here to glorify. But in fairness naman, one of the good things that happened during the time is the irrigation infrastructure. So kung ikaw ay anak nun, no, at ngayon ikaw ang presidente, malamang maalala mo yung good things that happened during that time, including real good things. Hindi yung tala na gold, mga but real good things, no? At kasama dyan, yung basic infrastructure sa agricultural sector. Kaya nga, I'm not totally surprised that President Marcos, incoming President Marcos, is taking this kind of a relatively unprecedented decision to have concurrent positions within his own cabinet. So ito yung sinabi ni incoming President Marcos, we're going back to basics and trying, and we will rebuild the value chain of agriculture. And that is why I thought it's important that the President take that portfolio so that not only to make it clear to everyone what a high priority we put on the agricultural sector, right? Okay, exactly that's what I've been saying. He's signaling that food security, economic recovery is the end-all be-all of at least his first term in office. At kung titignan mo yung mga items na pinapasok ng economic team ni Marcos, including incoming Department of Budget Secretary, dyan sa fiscal plan natin for 2023, a lot of that is on agriculture and food security, right? Sabi din niya, it is also a practical matter so that things move quickly because the events of the global economy are moving very quickly. We have to be able to be agile. We have to be able to respond properly in a measured way as soon as there is a situation that needs to be addressed. So ito po yung sinabi ni incoming President Marcos. And here, he pointed out exactly what I've been saying. He pointed out that yung export pact natin with Thailand and Vietnam, two of the largest sources of imported rice sa Pilipinas. So what he's looking at is ang concern niya is that the export pact between these countries is also influencing the prices of rice and some of the basic commodities. So parang cartel, parang OPEC style, no? Parang OPEC of rice, so cartel style. So sabi niya, there are many priorities that we have to attend to simultaneously. First of all, will be to try to increase production as we come into a harvest period during, before, and after the rainy season. Hopefully, we can counteract some of the increases in prices. So, yun nga, yun po yung concern talaga natin dyan. As I said, we have a global stagflation situation kung saan, on one hand, growth rates are expected to go down. World Bank has revised its economic projection for growth this year from 4.1% in January to 2.9% a month ago. So, ang laki ng baksak nung projection nila. And this is half of the growth rate we had last year. So, last year we had, I think, 5.6, 5.7% global economic growth by average. Of course, Philippines, which had a huge recession in 2020, up almost 10%, had made some recovery. But the reality is that we're facing economic deceleration. As I said, there are two reasons for that. One reason, relatively the lesser reason, is still continued disruption in the global supply chains. Alam natin yung China po ay malaking source ng maraming mga mahalagang bagay, including hindi lang yung mga basic goods or basic electronics, but also computer chips, among others. But the Taiwan, South Korea, other electronic giants are also having a hard time. A lot of production of cars, for instance, has been postponed. Even PS5, PlayStation 5, among others, na postpone natin na slow down production kasi hindi sila nakahanap ng computer chips. So there are many other kind of disruptions dun sa global supply chain. Kasi sa mundo kasi natin, guys, hindi totoo na isang bansa lang gumagawa ng produkto. When you see a product na nakalagay made in China, it doesn't mean it's 100% made in China. A lot of them, the design is based in US, right? So Apple products, it's more like assembled in China because a lot of key technology, a lot of the design is actually from overseas. So China only has an added value and nakataon sa China yung final processing kaya nakalagay made in China. Not to mention some countries want to put it made in China rather than made in US or made in some other country because that gives them an advantage in terms of exemptions, for instance, from certain taxes, tariffs, etc. So when you say made in China, it's very different from saying made by China. When you say Xiaomi, when you say Geely, when you say Huawei, these are made by China products, but they are also not 100% Chinese. So, for instance, Huawei had to rely also a lot on high-tech inputs from Korea, from Western countries, from US. The same for ZTE. But these are like products that are like 70% plus pure Chinese. But there are a lot of products out there nakalagay made in China, but they're barely 30% really from China. 70% is from other countries. So ang tawag dyan is global supply chains. So very few things today are made 100% only in one country when you talk about quite advanced things. So for instance, TV, right? Yung screen na to made in Malaysia, yung likod niya made in Philippines, kunyari, sabihin natin yung bulb sa loob made in Korea, and yung assembly sa Vietnam. You see, that's how it works. It's not all made in one country, okay? So when you say made in China, hindi ibig sabihin lahat yan galing sa China, the technology, design. No, a lot of time it's just added value in China. Value added in China, completion in China, kaya nakalagay made in China. And as I said, doon sa mga matalino dyan, kung ayaw mo si China, wag ka na mag-iPhone, wag ka na Hello, iba po yung Xiaomi ng China sa iPhone na na-assemble sa China, but actually the technology design, everything is from California. Do you get the point? Do you get the difference? Okay. Ayan kasi, hindi nag-aaral, walang background sa economics, salita ng salita. Kasama pa dyan yung mga ibang businessman na nagsasalita, wala naman alam sa economics. All right. So, China, because nag-lockdown sila recently, so daming impressed sa China, wow, galing ng China, ganyan China. Tuloy. Hindi gumagana masyado yung kanilang, their COVID-19 response. At the same time, wala, authoritarian system sila. They're not a democracy. So, pag sinabi ni Xi Jinping, zero COVID policy, that means isang kaso lang, isi-shut down yung buong city. And that's exactly what happened in not only Beijing, but also in Shanghai, their financial center, their kind of New York, London. And ilan months, the whole Shanghai was under lockdown, right? So that really hurt the economy big time. And that created a lot of disruptions in the supply chains. But also, very importantly, guys, that also affected China's economic growth outlook. Marami sa ating mga bansa ay depende sa China for investment, for tourism, etc. So if the Chinese economy suffers, as they say, I mean, if a big country sneezes, others can catch cold, right? So I'm not talking about pandemic. I'm talking about the economic part. So China is so important to regional supply chains and economic growth that if China slows down, all countries are also affected in the region, right? So that's one thing. But the bigger immediate shock is really from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yes, it's an invasion. It's not a special, it's an invasion. Of course, na-fail yung first phase, so now they're concentrating dun lang sa mga border areas, Donetsk, Luhansk, etc. Russia is slightly doing better there militarily, but they were beaten in the north when they invaded Kiev and all. So dun sa mga nagko-question sa braveness and patriotism of Zelensky, Zelensky stayed in Kiev when Kiev was under siege and everyone thought Kiev was going to fall. They told him, get out of the country, don't stay there. No, he stayed there, he took the risk, he's still taking the risk, he's leading his country. So just because, ayan na, nagtitimduwag yung iba, galit kay Zelensky. Okay, ayaw na magsalita. Alright, going back. Speaking of Russia, you see, one thing that people don't know is this. Everyone thinks, Russia, vodka, tanks, helicopters, and oil, right? In fact, there are times that Russia produces more oil than Saudi Arabia or exports more oil than Saudi Arabia. So everyone thinks about Saudi Arabia when you talk about oil. But actually, Russia is a huge producer. And not only oil, but also natural gas. The whole Siberian area. Siguro ang daming dinosaurs noon. Kaya yung mga leftovers nila, naging oil and gas and all of that. But Russia is also the world's leading producer of fertilizers, which is extremely important to food production. And Russia and Ukraine put together, dahil nga sa global warming, nagiging yung agricultural productivity ng mga bansa na yun, umakyat eh. Their lands are more and more fertile. They can have better yield. So Ukraine and Russia put together are close to 1/5 of total calories traded in the world. Maize, grain, so many basic foods. Depende tayo sa Ukraine and Russia. Now, I saw some of our intelligence secretaries claiming, alam niya yun naman nag-block sa akin sa Twitter, binablame lang niya yung mga oil companies. Now, I do have concerns with regulation. I think there are monopolistic practices. But I think people who don't know anything about economics don't know this. That when there is a shock, even if directly hindi related dun sa producers mo, it has ripple effects. So it is true that not much of our oil comes from Russia. That's true. We get it a lot from the Middle East. But the global oil prices are not only based on what we buy from Middle East. It's based on total supply of oil relative to demand and expectations of long-term availability of oil at a certain price. So when there's a shock, even though it doesn't directly concern us because we don't import much from Russia, it affects the whole world economy. Now, it is true though, perhaps, you can argue, that some people are taking advantage of that by pushing up the prices. Now, we can argue about that. But let's not forget we live in an integrated global market system. So any shock can have ripple effects. No? So now, maraming mga agricultural farms sa Ukraine nasisira. So sira na yung mga gusto nila i-export. Odessa and some of the ports in Black Sea, kung saan nag-export ng Ukraine, pababa sa Middle East, Asia, Africa, etc., they're affected because of the naval blockade and wars there, or semi-blockade. Other agricultural lands occupied or destroyed during the war with Ukraine. Russia itself is under sanctions, so it cannot also export its products. So nahihirapan din ng Russia to send its product. So, oh my goodness, it's a humongous shock, not only to oil supply, but also to food supply. And then nagsama yung dalawa, kasama din yung China, tech supply chain shock, boom, we are in the situation that we are today. Kaya nga, I think at least incoming President Marcos, I think he has some basic understanding of global economics. After all, nag-PPE siya in Oxford and nag-Wharton, nag-attend siya at least there. Diba? So I think he understands these basic things. And ang problema dito ay the countries that are paying the price unfortunately for this are smaller countries like us. So kung hindi natin ayusin itong problema ng agricultural self-sufficiency, food security, naku po, what if another war happens, another major food exporting country is affected? What if, and this is almost certain, climate change will further create disruptions in food supply in Brazil, soybean production, I don't know, in India, etc. So that's why, guys, you have to have a proper understanding of international economics, and we have to be really prepared. So in fairness naman sa incoming administration, they recognize that we are in a very critical situation and making sure yung karamihan ng mga Pilipino who are close to the poverty line or a lot even below the poverty line will be in a position to have access to basic goods. Otherwise, it's not only going to be a humanitarian crisis, it's also going to be a political crisis and headache for the incoming administration. At ikaw naman, gusto mo mabangaw ka sa first year mo. So yon. Alright, sorry. My class is about to start, sorry. So I'm gonna prioritize my students. I'm more like consultation actually. So yes, let's try to wrap it up very soon. Thank you very much. Thank you guys. Don't worry. Iko-continue natin tong discussion ng stagflation, global inflation, pero gusto ko lang dito may patikim dito na maintindihan nyo what we're talking about, what we're thinking about. Also, I'm gonna discuss more, why agricultural sector is very crucial to inclusive development and growth. And you'll also see part of that discussed in my extensive interview with incoming NEDA Secretary and former NEDA Secretary and current Commissioner of Philippine Competition Commission, Arsenio Balisacan, Dr. Professor Arsenio Balisacan. All right, maraming salamat. Again, I'm just giving you a heads up lang what we're talking about. So ito hindi pwede bara-bara tatay style. You have to be serious about this. You have to know global economics. You have to have the proper response. So if President Marcos is going to take a hands-on, more efficient approach, if he's going to overhaul the system, make us more food secure, so be it. You have to have, let's give him 100% support, right? Pero if this is just antics and all, then ibang usapan yan. Antics, optics. Yan ang term, antics, optics. No, I think he recognizes how serious this issue is. So we'll discuss more about this. No, trade, industrial policy, agricultural policy. Then I'll go back to Tesla and Bitcoin, Tesla, Bitcoin, and also the Phillips curve. All right? Thank you very much. Any questions? Picasso, nasaan ka na? Come on, mag-bye-bye ka na. Ayun yung production team ko. Pakidala yung ang prinsipe natin dito. Dito ka, ayan. Supply. Picasso, yung ka ng stars natin. After your lecture. Hello daw. Hi daw. Saan daw yung niya, stars niya? Bili daw siya ng damit na tuxedo. Meron na siyang date. Picasso, may date ka na? May tuxedo date ka na? Cute. Mag-hi daw kayo. Ayan na. Bye-bye ka na, Picasso. Wala daw siyang stars. Nakaipon na siya ng 1,000 stars. May pangbili na tayo sa... pangbili na tayo sa bone and food niya. Bye-bye daw. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Priorities. Bye-bye. Yan, okay. Nakakagigil eh. Nagagalit ako dito. Ginigigil ko to eh. Wala na. Gaza! Alright. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, guys. Talk to you soon. Ayan, okay, sige. Salamat sa mga friends natin dyan, mga kameta natin. Dapat may tayo. Thanks sa mga kameta natin, Metamites from Australia, from New Zealand, from Down Under, our Kiwi friends, Aussie friends. Boom! Booyaka siya! Thank you sa mga friends natin dyan from Japan, from Korea. Please, guys, subscribe to this channel kasi mukhang may problema tayo sa notifications. So if you subscribe for a month price of a single Starbucks, matcha, tea, coffee, whatever, presyo lang isang Starbucks lang, 1 month subscription. I'm sure mas efficient yung notification process because I think there has been some problem with the reconfiguration that Facebook did. Marami nagreklamo na hindi sila updated pag may live tayo. Kaya maraming team replay kaysa team live. Alright? So thank you very much for your support. Thank you sa mga friends natin sa Japan. Arigato, gozaimasu to our friends in Korea. Thank you very much also for joining us. It's mga friends natin dyan sa China, Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Quezon City, California, Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, Europe, Zaddy Moves, Zaddy, yan. Okay, thank you very much sa inyong lahat. Team Late, andyan na. Thank you kay Ruth Pidayo. Thank you kay Teresa. Thank you kay Mia. Thank you kay Riaz. Thank you kay Che Rizal. Thank you kay Faye. Thank you sa inyong lahat. Very thank you kay Mitch. Yan, mga galante yan. Thank you kay Maria. Isa pa yan, si Esmeralda. Mabait din yan. Ayan, thank you kay Hobby Trot, Park. Very, very kind of you. Thank you so much sa inyong lahat. Thank you kay Kit, Del Fiero. Alright, thank you very much guys. Balikan ko kayo mamaya. Comments ako. Unahin ko muna yung class. Thank you kay Ed Vargas, Jella. Very mabait yan. Thank you kay Manda, Paji. Thank you kay Mitch Tengcho. Isa pa yan, galante yan. Etra Lim, Rizal, Amper. Daming mga supporters pala ni Picasso. Thank you kay Mary, Michelle, Mansita. Thank you very much. Yan, Jella. Thank you kay Chiatsi, Maktubo. Thank you kay Vic Barrientos. Thank you kay Mitch Tengcho. Yan, mabait yan. Anyan, fan yan ni Picasso. Thank you kay Cherazal. Alright, thank you so much guys. Talk to you again soon. Thank you also kay Catherine Alcomedas. And thank you also kay Annalise Baga, to all our supporters. Continue to, and please subscribe. Alright? Isang Starbucks for a month. Alright? Para sigurado tayo. Tignan natin kung maayos yung notification issue. Thank you very much. God bless.